Israel knows full well what the ultimate cost of a massive incursion into Gaza would be, and they're prepared to pay that political cost. It will mean isolation. It could mean the ending of most of Israel's recent accords with other Arab countries.
The UK has sent 2 Royal Navy support ships, surveillance aircraft and around 100 Royal Marines to the Eastern Mediterranean as a symbol of support for Israel. According to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the move is meant to prevent further escalation after last week's barbaric attack from Hamas terrorists. A Royal Navy task group, which includes 2 ships, RFA Lime Bay and RFA Argus, will be moving to the Eastern Mediterranean next week. The Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps, spoke to Times Radio Breakfast this morning.
I've been able to send resources to monitor, provide humanitarian support potentially in the Middle East, and I wasn't stretched to do that. And in fact, I've got more assets available should I wish to. Our brave men and women of the military are there to serve, and they're very up for it as well.
Well, let's speak now to Michael Binyon, who's former diplomatic at For the Times. He's on the line now. Good afternoon, Michael.
Hello, good afternoon.
How significant do you think this move is from the Prime Minister? Is it more symbolic than anything else?
I think it is more symbolic, yes. It's a show of solidarity with Israel, and it's an attempt to reassure Britons living in the region that there is military help nearby should any Britons get caught up in any further fighting, particularly, for example, supposing Hezbollah in the north of Lebanon start to threaten Israelis or others in the region. And I think it is a symbol that Britain, along with other Western countries, stands with Israel in this operation.
And we've seen a steady stream of European authorities and leaders arriving in Israel today, expressing the staunchest support, the US Secretary of State as well. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you've got the humanitarian organisations talking about an absolute catastrophe if Israel goes ahead with this order to get all the people in northern Gaza to withdraw and move who knows where. How are they kind of treading this tightrope very carefully, or do you think that there will come a point when some European leaders are going to feel they have to intervene to urge restraint publicly on Israel?
I don't think the voices of the European leaders urging restraint will carry much weight at the moment in Israel. I mean, Israel knows full well what the ultimate cost of a massive incursion into Gaza would be, and they're prepared to pay that political cost. It will mean isolation. It could mean the ending of most of Israel's recent accords with other Arab countries. It could mean a return to Cold War or even hot war politics throughout the Middle East, just at a time when they'd been hoping that things were beginning to ease up a bit. On the other hand, I think the Israelis themselves are looking to see whether there is some kind of diplomatic support or partnership, particularly from countries such as Egypt or Qatar or others who could be in a position to influence what happens, either by allowing those in Gaza to leave, the civilians to leave, to go to Egypt, for example, or offering humanitarian aid of some kind. But at the moment, Israel is focused solely on the military operation it is determined to launch, and that will start soon.
And that much was made very clear that, you know, they wouldn't heed any of those urgings for restraint. By my previous guest, Yaakov Amidrol, former National Security Advisor to Binyon Netanyahu. You mentioned an interesting sort of possible diplomatic approach there with Egypt. Do you think that's at all possible in the next, in the coming days? Is that something we might see?
Well, Egypt has played a mediating role for many years. In fact, ever since Egypt signed a peace treaty with Israel many, many years ago under President Sadat, they have been the ones who can diffuse or have tried to diffuse clashes between Palestinians, particularly in Gaza, and Israel. And in the past, they've dreamed up some kind of fudge. Now, the thing is that all the Arab countries have been completely wrong-footed by the Hamas attack because it is more brutal, more unexpected, more sudden, and more murderous than anything we've known before. And so I think the Arab countries really don't quite know what role they could play that would be consistent with the mood in their own countries, which is, if not 100% in favor of Hamas, certainly pretty supportive and will turn against Israel if there is widespread fighting. On the other hand, the leadership of these moderate Arab countries is determined not to let the recent agreements just fall by the wayside. So we'll have to see if Egypt does, in fact, open the gates to let Gazans out or try to intervene with Hamas, I'm not very optimistic that much would come of it.
Mm. And you touch on an interesting point there about the sort of wider fallout of all of this. What are the chances, do you think, of this conflict spilling over into neighbouring regions and drawing in other powers? You've seen Iran's statement today, for example.
Well, that is exactly the tactic of Hamas. That's exactly what they were looking for. It's a trap that they've set, and it's a very bloody trap, but it's quite an effective one because, as they know, because they were so murderous in their attacks, Israel is determined to have full-scale retaliation, which will be very bloody and very costly, which will inflame Arab opinion, and which in turn could prompt some governments or other operators to intervene. Hezbollah in the north, which is another Iranian proxy, is quite ready to help the Palestinians by attacking from the north. That would mean attacking across the Israeli border in the north, or others may find, I mean, Jordan has got a very precarious, delicate situation with Israel. There are diplomatic relations, but if King Abdullah was to intervene at this moment, I think it would be disastrous for Jordan. All the Arab countries are in a very difficult position because public opinion will be inflamed by whatever Israeli does.